What's up guys, my name is Natalie and welcome to my Nook of Novels. Today I am going to be doing my February wrap up and I'm going to be doing this throughout the month, kind of like I'm doing my Wheel of TBR to choose my books that I read throughout February. I'm doing this instead of my vlog this month because y'all don't really watch those that much, and so I didn't know if wrap-ups might be more interesting to you guys, so I decided to try this out instead just to see how it goes. Basically, just whenever I finish a book, I'm going to share my thoughts on it with y'all because I find that I have more thoughts on a book right after I finish it versus waiting until the end of the month and talking about them all at once, which is why I did a vlog instead of a wrap-up in the first place. But I think that if I do this kind of format, then I think that that will work best because it is my thoughts fresh from reading the book as well as more interesting for you guys to watch. So let me know if y'all like this kind of video, and I will probably continue doing this in the future if you guys do. That being said, the first book that I finished so far this month is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan, and I gave this book 4 stars. I enjoyed it quite a bit. If you don't know what this is about, it is a Mulan retelling, and it follows a girl who grows up in this village where she's the only girl left because everyone favors the boys and basically everyone is starving, and so when people decide who to feed, they choose to feed the sons over the daughters, and so basically all the females have been either killed or starved. Her father and brother end up dying, and she has been told that her fate is nothingness, but her brother's fate is greatness. But now that her brother is dead, he obviously cannot meet his fate and become great. So she decides to take the place of her brother and become Zhu Chongba instead of who she was. And she goes to this monastery to become a monk. That's all I want to say without spoiling it. I didn't really have any issues with it, but the reason that I didn't just give it 5 stars was it just didn't get that 5-star feeling to me. There wasn't things at the end that just blew my mind. There were a couple plot twists that I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. But mostly it was just like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. It was just a good plot. The fantasy aspects were interesting. There were also paranormal elements in here that were enjoyable. The romance between the lesbian characters was definitely fitting, I think, especially considering the circumstances, and the misogyny in this book is so much, but I think it's handled well in this book, though it's definitely not presented as a good thing. Pretty much every guy in this book is just like, nope, women are awful. The only reason women exist is to have kids. That was really annoying. That was something that bothered me so much about some of these dudes, that I just could not get on board with their characters. But they were presented as villains and meant to be villains, so you weren't necessarily meant to sympathize with them. They did have a lot in their plot lines as well that you might have sympathized with them, but I don't know. And it follows both the enemy side and the good side. Something interesting about this is that it kind of blurs the lines between good and evil in a lot of circumstances. The objectively good side, some of those characters definitely do bad things, and similarly the bad characters do good things, and you can kind of tell that everyone in this book is just kind of human and they're trying to make the best of their lives, especially Zhu Chongba, the main character. Something that confused me about this book though was the pronouns, because so obviously, like I said, the main character is originally a girl and takes the place of her brother who is a guy. It's in third person, but whenever it's following people who are not Zhu, it says he a lot, and so I get confused who they're talking about because I'm like, wait, it's Zhu, who is a she, but then when it's following Zhu, it'll say she. The main character is kind of presented as neither male nor female. Physically, they are female, and in the terms of like her fate, she's taken her brother's place, and a lot of what she's done as a male because she grew up in a monastery and became a male monk. But it's interesting that she's not held back by being male or female. She just gets what she wants despite who she is, and she doesn't let that hold her back, and I just love that so much. That's really all I have to say about this, I think. Let me know what you guys thought of this one. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I got hiccups directly before filming this, so that was really convenient. It is later in the month and I finished a couple more books, so I'm going to tell you guys about those. So the first one that I finished was Richard III by William Shakespeare, and I read this for school and I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 3.75 stars. It's really interesting how awful this dude is, and the paranormal aspects of this play were really cool to see as well. At the very start of the play, there's like a corpse that's been dead for a really long time and it starts bleeding again. And our teacher was telling us that depending on if certain directors want to make the play have those paranormal aspects or not, that's usually determined by whether the corpse starts bleeding at the beginning or not, which I just thought was interesting. And the fact that Richard III is very much associated with the devil in this play, and there's a lot of ties to that, which again I found pretty interesting. And also the plot, and there's so many characters, and the family tree was kind of hard to keep track of. I do not know very much about British history, but from what I kind of got from this, and also our teacher telling us kind of how people are connected, I wasn't super confused, so that was good. But there was a little bit where I was like, who on earth is that dude? Like, what are they doing here? The fact that nobody was trying to stop this dude at all, and he was just like, yeah, I'm gonna kill this person and those people and all of those people, and I'm just gonna become king now. And everyone was just like, yeah, okay, that's cool. They were just really bad attempts to stop him, and I was like, surely to goodness y'all can try a little bit harder than that. I don't really have much more to say about it other than that. The other thing that I finished was With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. I listened to the audiobook for this one and I enjoyed it. I'm really picky about my audiobooks. They have to have a very specific writing style and narrator for me to be able to listen to it and not be extremely bored and just tune the whole thing out. This one was quite enjoyable. So if you don't know, With the Fire on High is about a teen mom who loves cooking, and she's basically just trying to balance taking care of her kid as well as going to school and having jobs and stuff. And it's really interesting to read, especially because I'm a very busy person, and so I'm trying to do 100 things at once, and I felt for this girl, but obviously I don't have a kid and I don't have a job, so it's not really the same thing, but I understand kind of, and the struggle with like schools and people judging her for having a kid and stuff, and just like seeing her experience as a person of color too, going through all of that was interesting, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. The plot was not confusing, so if I did tune it out, I wasn't completely lost, which is why I have discovered that listening to fantasy audiobooks is not really a great thing for me, because I tune it out sometimes and then I miss one tiny thing and all of a sudden I'm like, what happened? Where's this plot going? I completely have no idea what's going on anymore. There was enough plot though to where it was interesting, but I wasn't super confused, so that was good. And her love of cooking was really interesting too, and just her passion for it and the way that shone through despite everything else that she had going on as well. So yeah, I haven't decided on a rating for that one yet actually, but I think I'm gonna go with 4 stars. I'm a tiny ways into the Priory of the Orange Tree. It'll probably be a bit before I have anything else to say. Bye for now. The last thing that I finished this month was The Fear by Charlie Higson. I really enjoyed this book and I give it 4 stars. It is the 3rd book in the Enemy series, if you didn't know that already. And The Enemy is basically about a bunch of kids who have to survive after all the adults in the world have become diseased, and they basically act like zombies. They attack the children and try to eat them, and it's very chaotic and scary for these children, and a lot of things happen in these books. There's a lot of different places that these kids have to go to try to find other kids and just basically try to survive. And it follows a lot of different characters, and I would have given this book maybe a 4.5 or a 5-star rating, but there were a couple things that kind of bothered me a little bit, because the first 150 pages or so of this book, literally nobody had died yet, which was really surprising to me, because in the first 2 books it seemed like people were just being killed off left, right, and center. Everybody, you would get attached to them and then they would die immediately, and it definitely waited a while, and maybe it was just trying to get you more attached to the characters before they died, which definitely did happen. It was just kind of taking a bit longer than I was hoping for some action to get started. But once it did, I was definitely enjoying myself, and I love the graphic descriptions and the way that he describes the grown-ups. The way that they're diseased is very gross, and it's fantastic in this book, so I really enjoy that. Most of these books focus on the fact that literally anybody could die. There kind of is the main person that it follows, but where it's told in 3rd person, there's not really a main character, and it tells you about all of the kids, basically. And there was a part where I thought that a main character was going to have plot convenience and be saved. I wasn't sure what was going to happen, because it kind of did a little plot twist thing and made me think that something else was going to happen, but then it kind of plot twisted back and it was like, oh, maybe that won't happen. And it was definitely interesting and kept me on the edge of my seat. But overall, I definitely enjoyed this one quite a bit, and I'm super excited to continue with the series and see what's going to happen next with these characters. So that was the last book that I actually entirely finished this month, but I also started reading The Prior of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. If you saw my We Live TBR video from last week, then you know that this was the first thing that I spun, but I ended up putting it down temporarily because I have just not been really in the mood to read high fantasy, and it is a really good story, and I was definitely enjoying what I read of it so far, but I just really wasn't in the mood to read it, and I wanted to save it for when I actually wanted to read it and not try to force myself through it and not end up enjoying it. So I got about a third of the way through and then stopped. So I'm definitely planning on continuing with this sometime in March, but like I said, I want to wait until I'm actually in the mood for it. And after I finished reading The Fear, I picked up How To: Absurd Scientific Advice for Common Real-World Problems by Randall Munro. I read What If by this author, which I believe is real scientific answers to absurd hypothetical questions. And that basically answers hypothetical absurd questions with real answers, as the title suggests. And I really enjoyed that. It's kind of science-y, which is not usually my taste, but it's also really funny. This one is very similar, and I'm only 2 chapters in as of right now, but it's so much fun. It's basically just these absurd ideas that he's like, theoretically, you could do this. Now, it might not be the best idea for these reasons, but you could do it, and I just am a huge fan of that. It's just really funny to me. And technically, I am still in the middle of Hunting Prince Dracula by Carrie Maniscalco. I read the first page of and said that I started so that I didn't fail my January TBR. Anyway, I need to read this in March. It needs to happen. If I don't finish it, then I'm going to say that I failed my March TBR because I have been meaning to read this since January, and it didn't happen. And then the 3 other books from my February TBR also did not happen whatsoever. So Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card, I meant to read, didn't. Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens, did not read. And The Giver by Lois Lowry, I did not read. These were sort of the things that I meant to read this month, and I only really finished this one. But that's okay because I definitely enjoyed myself reading this month. At the start of the month when I was kind of in the mood to read this, I was definitely enjoying what I was reading. I think that mood reading every once in a while is definitely the way to go, but again, I just love spinning my wheel, and it's so much fun to pick a TBR with the prompts. So yeah, I definitely think that I'm going to continue doing the every other month thing throughout the year. That is all for this video though. I hope that you guys enjoyed. If you did, then please hit the like button and subscribe if you would like to, and hit the notification bell if you would like to see the other videos that I post on Mondays. I will have my Goodreads and Bookstagram linked in the description. Comment down below how your reading month went in February, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!